I'm going to be talking about every type of lumbar disc herniation can be managed with uniportal endoscopy. I think the answer is very simple. Yes, every type of lumbar disc herniation can be managed with uniportal endoscopy. So as we all know, there are various areas where the slip disc can occur. Now the important thing about this talk is more than every type can be managed, it's about how do we go about managing it. Which route should we take to reach our final destination, which is going to be the slip portion of the disc. So for an example, in very migrated discs, can we do this approach? If we can do, what approach do we do? Do we do interlaminar? Do we do transforaminal? So this question I'm going to try and answer through this topic, where if it doesn't matter where the disc herniation is in the lumbar spine, but can it be managed with uniportal endoscopy? So I call this surgery as a surgical strike of the disc. We all know the Pulwama attacks and how India gave it back, which is called the surgical strike. So I believe that any surgery targeting only the pathology without causing any damage to surrounding structures and leaving no proof behind. So open surgery, tubular surgery, UBE, every surgery can manage all kinds of lumbar disc herniations. But can we do it in a way where we can truly call it a surgical strike and we do not leave any major proof behind? That is what is important. So we don't disturb the natural anatomy. So when you see any kind of post-operative MRIs, you always see these laminectomy defects, adhesions, fibrosis, etc. However, this is a post-operative MRI of a patient 4 years after his primary interlaminar endoscopy, and even the radiologist could not identify that a surgery was done. So this is what I mean by a surgical strike of the disc. Now, even the way our spine is, I think the spine is made so that uniportal endoscopy can be done. It has given us beautiful interlaminar windows at the lower spine and very big foramens at the higher spine. So if the anatomy is made for this, then why not use these approaches? Why not use these routes to try and achieve our target, which is the disc? So my indication for interlaminar versus transforaminal, interlaminar, yes, you can do any level. However, when I read an MRI, I first try and see whether what approach do I do where I remove the least anatomy. So where I do the least damage to the surrounding structures, which are actually not the pathology. The pathology is just the disc. So if you see this MRI scan, here the patient has a L5S1 huge disc, and mind you, there is an inferiorly migrated disc also over here. So this can easily be treated with an interlaminar endoscopic approach, where we just need to go see the root, you retract the root, you remove the disc piece. So here you saw that you could only see the lateral edge of the nerve, and once this disc piece has removed, and once I derotate my cannula, the whole S1 nerve, the axilla, the shoulder. Now this is why I would like to take an interlaminar approach, because I can see the whole nerve in totality. Whereas a transforaminal approach, anyways, at L5S1 is difficult because of the iliac crest, but you cannot see this picture. Now once I see this picture, I know that I've done the right job and my surgery is over. And if you see the post-op MRI scan, so even that fragment has been removed, you can see blood vessels, but the most important thing is that even the ligamentum flavum is intact. That's that tiny rent which I've made in the flavum to go through and remove the disc. So this is what I mean when you compare the left to the right side also. You cannot realize that the surgery has been done, and this is 4th post-op day MRI scan. Now another a huge fragment which is superiorly migrated. We saw Dr. Banod's talk yesterday, which mentioned how we goes translaminar for higher approaches. And yes, at the higher level, if I have to go interlaminar, you may have to remove a lot of laminar ligamentum flavum. However, my aim is to try and just remove this fragment. So is it possible for me to do it in the interlaminar approach without causing any disruption to the normal anatomy? Well, it's very much possible, because this is where a uniportal scope comes in. You use the flexibility, you go in through the interlaminar window, and then you can actually direct it superiorly and to get that fragment. So here I am lateral to the nerve. I am at the level of the disc right now. We are just removing a part of the disc which was at the level of the disc. And after I'm done this, this is the rent which you see. This is the rent which was there, and from here the disc has migrated superiorly. So my aim is to try and get that fragment from that corner, and I want to see the exiting nerve root over there. So once we will remove this fragment, you will be able to see the exiting nerve root which is going superiorly. So if I can manage this again without doing any laminectomy, any phlebectomy, mild phlebectomy actually, and just getting that fragment out, and that's the epidural fat which you see near the nerve. So again, this is the post-op MRI. If you see that the fragment has been beautifully removed, and even in the axial cuts, as you see, sorry, I've not missed the axial. So anyways, another case with a huge disc at the alpha S1 level. This patient had a cauda equina. Uh, Theoretically, we all know cauda equina, you want to do a wide laminectomy and relieve the patient of his symptoms. This patient had urinary retention. He had a left-sided neurological deficit as well. Now, can this be managed endoscopically? So we have to take advantage of the wide interlaminar window and try and get those pieces out. So as you see here, the S1 nerve has been pushed laterally completely. That's the first fragment of the disc which is coming out. And in these cases, you have to be aware that there are going to be multiple fragments. Don't get happy when you just get one fragment. That's the second fragment which is coming out. That's the third fragment which is there. And here I'm working all through the axilla here. That's the fourth fragment. Now, after doing this, I can see the axilla beautifully, but still I have to go medially and check, and I can see one more fragment over there, and we are removing that fragment through the axilla. I was finding the nerve still pushed laterally. So the aim is to see, again, the nerve completely in totality, the dura as well as the nerve. And this patient was walking immediately post-op. This is a post-op MRI again, the huge fragment, and the cauda equina has been well decompressed. Even in the axial cut, you see the lamina is completely intact. Even the flavum is completely present. Sorry for the image quality, but that's an extraforaminal disc. Although it is mentioned L4-5, it is more a sacralized L5. So here, because I have a iliac crest which is low, that's why reading your preoperative X-rays and MRIs are very important. You can actually go extraforaminally over here and get that fragment out. So what I normally do in these cases is dock at the inferior pedicle, so that's the S1 pedicle, if I count this as the alpha S1 level, and then go up. The minute I go up, that you see is the exiting nerve there. That's a fragment which just completely delivers itself the minute you give it room and space. Again, once the fragment is out, always make sure that you check for remnant fragments. And there are a few fragments which are in the axilla of the nerve, the exiting nerve. And once this is done and you see that the whole space is empty, you know that you've done a good job. Now, in this situation, this is another case with the L3-4 huge disc. As you see here, the whole disc is occupying the canal. The patient is a 32-year-old architect. He had facet joint hypertrophy as well. Now, this guy had urinary retention, had a left-sided foot drop. Now, again, in this situation, we have so many options. We can do a complete laminectomy. It's L3-4 level. Some people might do a fusion. However, if I get a good transforaminal approach, important thing is I want to be as flat as possible because the disc is completely in the center. And if my target of my needle, which is the most important over here, if it's done in the right place, the minute you dock your camera, you will see that the disc is completely in the front. So after docking, you see that the disc is completely lying in front of me. And there was a huge piece which came out. And once there was a huge piece which was there. And once we removed that piece, you can see that it has completely been decompressed. So this patient had a foot drop, as you see, typical high stepping gait. And this is 1 month post-surgery where the foot drop completely recovered and even his bladder symptoms have recovered. Now, this is another case. Again, it's not just about where the disc is, but it's also how your patient is. So now this patient was a 70-year-old lady and she had significant COPD. She was walking with an oxygen cylinder. She could barely take 5 steps without oxygen. So obviously everyone had said that we cannot give her any kind of GA, we cannot give her any anesthesia. Even lying on her tummy was very, very difficult. Now in these situations, this patient had a right-sided L4 disc and she was significant painful. Now this is where even transforaminal surgeries help, where you can do them under local anesthesia. Just dock your camera, remove that piece of disc quickly, and the patients can recover from their pain. Now this is another case which is a L2-3 central disc. Left-sided, patient had a lot of left-sided radiculopathy, anterior, and the patient also had a L3-4 foraminal disc. Now, in these patients, these situations also, I mean, you have various means, you have various modes of transportation to take you to the destination. However, if I can do something minimally without removing the lamina, the flavum, with a transforaminal L2-3 and a L3-4 extraforaminal disc, you can easily achieve this a 2-level surgery in this situation. Now, this is another patient with a huge disc at the L4-5 level. Again, if you see the wide interlaminar window, So even all these situations are very important. I know that most likely this patient may not require any kind of medial facet resection. This patient may not require, a lot of natural anatomy which will be disrupted. And just by doing an interlaminar endoscopy, we were able to achieve a good decompression. So the most important thing is, yes, any kind of disc herniation can be targeted. We have various modes, but however, I always try to choose the means where I know that the natural anatomy, the normal anatomy will not be disrupted significantly. And that's the reason why I feel that uniportal endoscopic discectomies are truly the surgical strike of the disc. Thank you.